Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Scenic Route Astrology. Makayla here. I'm just laughing because right before I was about to hit record, there was a siren going off in the backdrop. So I had to wait a minute. And I was actually just dropping into Virgo energy so we could talk about the Virgo new moon that's happening on September 2nd, 2024. And I wanted to open up this video with all of us, kind of tapping into that frequency. And the sirens started going off, which is very much in alignment with some of the information that I need to put out for this new moon today, this new moon video today. So like always, the universe is always in collaboration with our messages if we're tuning in and listening and being aware of what's in front of us or around us. So, so I'm going to talk a little bit about how I'm seeing the frequency of this new moon show up. And then I'm going to share the astrology chart and break down the transits for us so that you can apply it to your own chart in your own life. Again, this is general horoscope today that I'm doing, so this can apply to all of us. And then if you want to hone in and get more specific on where it's happening for you, just think about this conversation today and the house that it's falling into your natal chart. And those themes can be applied to that area of your life, right? Those behaviors of this new moon can be applied to that area of your life. So we are in Virgo season, and I've definitely felt the shift. So I wonder if many of you have also. But Virgo season is a transitional time for us where we are obviously leaving Leo, and we have a lot of creative self-expression coming through. We might feel more dramatic. We might feel like we want to assert ourselves more, be more outgoing, take up more space, be more expansive. We might have more flair, more color to our life. And then we transition into Virgo season, and we still have all of those qualities that we've picked up from Leo, but it's about refining those qualities now, right? Polishing them up, removing excess that isn't needed or, depletes too much energy. It's a more yin feeling. So it's about bringing clarity to our development or evolution or the stage of our life that we're in. And it's about being more coherent, right, of whatever is going on in your life. And I'm going to use the word perfecting very lightly, but Virgo archetype does govern over the area of life where we want to perfect things or we want to refine things so that they look all amazing in quality and are the best versions of themselves, right? But the reality is nothing is ever perfect, and we're never actually going to be 100% perfect. But with Virgo qualities, we can get more clarity on what needs improvement in our life. And so Virgo season is always a good time to transition into the next chapter of whatever you're working on, internal process, external process, whatever that is, but to, focus in on more self-improvement and things that can make things better, right? Level up life, essentially. And Virgo is they're all of the archetypes, all of the signs are so important because they bring such a specific role in the entirety of all creation. But with Virgo, the smallest change and the smallest detail can change the whole entire perspective and the whole outcome, right? So it's small, fine adjustments towards path that we're going on, right? That can change the entire course of something, so many of I have a flying background, and if you just maneuver the plane even 1 degree off, that completely changes the path of the flight path that you're on, okay? And you might not reach the destination that you were trying to go in. So we can see now why Virgo, as it remains a very yin type of archetype. And in certain areas of our life can resemble the small adjustments, the small things. We can understand how important it actually pays a role to pay attention to the details, right? Pay attention to the moves you're making right now. Okay. And this is not to instill fear and just being like, oh my God, if you don't pay attention right now and you're not making the right moves, you're gonna be completely off course. Well, that's actually not true either. It might take you longer to get somewhere, but ultimately, what is your destiny? What is your soul's evolution? You are going to get there, but for some of us, it might be on a more accelerated path if we have more clarity in the now. And we're using tools like human design and astrology and intuition to get that coherency, right? To become more refined and clear on that path going forward. So rather than, being stuck in the chaos. But if you're somebody who is here watching this video, you are one of those individuals who is not a part of the sheep herd, is not putting their head down, and who is paying attention to the choices that you're making and the information that can be helpful for you to get to the path of, the end destination or the goal, or at least the next destination that's it's helpful for you to live your most authentic life and also have your highest potential reached, right? So we all want to be happy, we all want to live in more simplicity in one way or another, where life can, and I'm referring this to the tapping and the tuning into the Virgo qualities of life just being more simple. And it is an earth sign, so it is about connecting to the body, um being more practical, right? Being in the present moment in our physical reality as it is. And it does connect to Taurus, which has to do with our ability to, in a trine, to be self-sustaining and connect to our personal values and understand that that is a resource itself. And then everything that we are surviving on after that is based on our values. And then the other side of the earth dynamic, the grand trine in earth, is the Capricorn sign, right? Which is taking the responsibility to provide for our lives, but also build something of structure and fortitude and long-term achievement and success, whether that be a roof over your head, or a career that's really important to you, or a family life, or whatever that is, right? It could be so many things. So coming back into the present moment, this new moon, and I do want to remind people that new moons are very silent, right? They are when the sun and the moon are together. So it's a planting the seed, right? And we get a new moon in Virgo every September of every year. So we get a chance to plant a seed that is going to adjust the course of our life, right? And by planting the seed, I mean setting the intention, right? Everything that we manifest out in the world starts with an intention, and that is not tangible. That is something that you can't see yet, or you can't feel, or you can't hold in your hand. It is simply an emotion and a thought coming together from your higher consciousness and your higher self that is being brought into your awareness, right? Into your ability to make an awareness of that. And so new moons are very silent, they're very potent. It doesn't mean because it's dark and we can't see it that it isn't there. It is representing the beginning of a new stage, right? And every new moon begins a 2.5-year cycle, a 4-year cycle, but really these things actually make a ripple effect in the longevity of our life too. So, if you're thinking about this new moon already and what you would like to set an intention for, I would take some time to think, okay, what would be helpful and what would bring me self-improvement in my life and a bit more simplicity and more clarity in my life and help me adjust to get on the right path, where I'm going. in the next 4 weeks, and also, or in the next 2.5 years, and then also how is that connected to the bigger picture and the bigger landscape of my entire life. Okay. And those are just some things to like meditate on and, take a few minutes like while we're in this time and space. Okay. It doesn't mean that you need to like act right now. Honestly, that really depends on your natal chart yourself and your intuitive pulls that you're getting, and knowing that they're coming actually deeply from your intuition, and not getting caught up in the space of the head, which is a shadow quality that can happen with Virgo transits, is that this over analyzing, overthinking, right? If thoughts are coming to you and feelings are coming to you and they feel like anxiety and they feel like overwhelm and they feel like they're taking over your mind and causing depression and stuff, and we're going to get into this when I pull up the chart, that's just a sign that the rush or the forcefulness is not right for you. Okay. Because when we actually are setting the intention and then we're going to take action, it comes from when it's appropriate. And of course, this is different for everybody, considering your makeup, your design, right? Your astrology design and your human design chart. It's different for everyone, but the baseline is not coming from a feeling of fear or doubt or rush because of insecurity. Okay. And that's actually what I wanted to label the major theme of this new moon and this time and space that we're in right now, is insecurity versus unsecurity. Now, I don't even know if unsecurity is an actual word, but unsecure is a word, right? So insecure versus unsecure. And both things can happen with the Virgo archetype. And I think both things are important to discuss right now under this new moon, given that it's in Virgo. And then the opposite of that is the Pisces archetype, which is an important thing to bring in because Saturn is there, and this new moon is opposed Saturn retrograde in Pisces. And also we have an upcoming eclipse cycle that is also going to be bringing in the Virgo and Pisces houses in your astrology chart. Okay. So we're starting to lean into the node shifting up into that, and also leading up into the eclipse cycle that's going to be happening. And the next eclipse is going to be in September. So we're only a couple of weeks away. And with eclipses, they're, often life-changing full moons and new moons, and they are karmically related. And there's really, you just have to go with the flow with them. You start to feel them a couple of weeks before they happen, a couple of weeks after they happen. They're incredibly intense. They're here for your highest good and your highest potential, so we have to tap into that. Okay. So let's pull it back again with the insecure versus unsecure. So when we are operating in the shadow quality within Virgo, we can become very insecure around our choices, what we're eating, how we look, where we're living, the relationships that we're in, the choices that we've made, the job that we're doing. It's just like, you name it, right? Like us humans, it's natural to, I'll wait for that to pass. Us humans, it's natural for us to have, it just reminded me, like a garbage truck sometimes of insecurities. Okay. And really, insecurity just stems from a feeling of fear. Okay. And a feeling of, I can't change that, or I can't have that relationship, I can't have that person, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough for this job, or I'm not worthy, right? These masochistic type of dynamics that comes from the Virgo archetype sometimes. And it's not just to say all Virgos deal with this or whatever. It's just, it's actually a deeper evolutionary issue that we have that is too deep to go into right now, because of, the way that our generations went through the patriarchy and all of that, right? But I do want to bring up, the fact that insecurity can, stem from this level of fear that prevents us from actually making, important choices in our life, because that fear then often, relates to doubt. And then there comes a sense of paralysis in our ability to make moves, right? Make decisions. That paralysis can also come from the overthinking, right? The overrunning of things instead of just allowing us to surrender, which is going to be a part of the antidote to insecurity, right? That the need to control the outcome of something will often be stemming from insecure issues, right? I need to, um, I need to have X amount in the bank in order to do X thing, right? And that can stem from a need to control the outcome because we're insecure about the unknown, right? We're insecure about taking the chance. And right now, the North Node is in Aries, which is asking us to take chances, right? To move forward in parts of our life that we have not done before, new discoveries, new instincts, new journeys, new paths, right? Instinctual forces are coming, within us, like the vibration of that North Node is coming through us, right? And leading us in new directions in various ways. Again, this shows up differently for everybody, but the feeling and the insecurity can arise from that new whatever, because you don't know what the outcome is going to be. And so there is a loss of control, right? There's a sense of a loss of control because you honestly don't know what is on the other side of that bridge, right? Or the other side of the fence, if you will. And so if those things are showing up for you right now, some questions to ask is like, well, what am I trying to control? Right? What am I trying to control so much of? And like, what am I afraid of could possibly happen? And that is very valid things to consider, right? Very valid things like, oh, well, I could be homeless if I took this risk, right? Or I could, lose my relationship if I didn't address this problem that's been bothering me and I don't communicate, right? Those things are very valid, but then you also need to ask yourself, what if you don't, right? And what is the risk if you don't? And how much is it costing you right now to stay stagnant in the areas of life where fear and insecurity and doubt are holding you back from stepping into the next chapter or taking a leap of faith on yourself, right? Trusting in yourself, if you will. So the antidote to any sign or any archetype is in the polarity point, right? In the polarity of that sign. That is where the antidote lies. That's where the healing lies to the shadow qualities. So when we look to the side of Pisces, where also Saturn is resting in retrograde right now, Pisces on the higher scale deals with surrender. And I want to go deep into the fact that I don't believe that surrender means not taking action, right? I don't believe that surrender means laying down and being like, okay, have what you will, and then not doing a damn thing about something. I think surrender means taking action, but then understanding that the actions and the steps that you take, especially under this lunation right now, or the intentions that you plant under this lunation right now, small steps, but you are trusting in yourself and you're trusting in the universe that the outcome is going to bring you to exactly where you want to go and into alignment with where your soul wants to take you and where your desires are actually taking you. Okay. And so that's where really the wisdom comes in, from being unsecure, right? Because being unsecure doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It means you're not secure in the outcome, and you can admit the fact that you're like, I'm willing to risk and take this chance on myself because I have trust in myself and I don't know the outcome, and I'm willing to surrender and be unsecure in the outcome and to loosen my grips of control of what I'm trying to grasp or what I'm trying to make, and maybe allow yourself to go with the flow more of what could unfold to even a bigger and beautiful like landscape and scale down the road, right? 6 months down the road, when you start to see the actual manifestations of this new moon start to come through. Okay. And one of the things I love about the yin archetypes, right, and Pisces being yin too, is that yin tends to be a feminine quality. And I'm not going to say that, all yin signs are feminine. Like we all have, there's all masculine and femininity and yin and yang in every single dynamic of the world of astrology itself. And we could just go smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller into this, but still find polarity in each and everything. But wisdom is often correlated with the feminine essence because it's the wisdom of going with the flow. It's the wisdom of going within. It's the wisdom of receiving gifts, of trusting, of opening up. And these tend to be Pisces qualities too, of like softness and surrender. Okay. And trusting in the grace of the unknown, right? The grace of the universe actually putting things in front of you after you're willing to get present enough in the moment to release those little bits and pieces of you of insecurity and learn and trust to become incoherent and becoming unsecure, right? But also that small refinement and self-improvement allows the greaterness of the cosmos and the trust and all of the beautiful gifts of the cosmos to actually unfold for yourself. Okay. So let me bring up the transits for us so we can take a quick look at the astrology chart. And I know this is easier said than done, you know. Oh man, I always do this. Sorry. And my computer's been a little slow today. Oh, okay. I just have to get my screen smaller. What is going on? Okay. Let's get me over here. Let's just like get rid of me if I could. Okay. And my little pointer. Okay. Yeah, so here's the chart, as we can see. And I have it casted again for East Coast time because that's where I am right now for a little bit. And the new moon in Virgo is at 11 degrees, right? 11 degrees, sun and moon right there. And it is forming that opposition to the Saturn and Pisces. And Saturn and Pisces, I've talked about this in a couple of our videos, but really I'm looking at this as a letting go of things in our life that we've been devoted to, especially for some of us who've been alive for a long enough, like 30-year transit of, Saturn and Pisces. Um, you know, Surrender to some of the things that we have thought were bringing us stability and security in our life, but because of the way that we shift as humanity, life evolves, we evolve, these things don't remain the same anymore, right? They're very much connected to the law of impermanence, which is signified by the Scorpio archetype itself. But the whole deconditioning and the transmutation of soul itself, they are always connected to all of the water elements. And coming up, we're going to have a big Mars retrograde in Cancer transit, which is going to be a really important topic that I'll probably open up and discuss at one point in a video. But right now we need to concentrate on what we're choosing to dedicate our time and our efforts to, and realize that at one section of our life, certain things are ending, right? That could definitely be work. for many of you, because Saturn does rule over, work, achievement, ambition, goals, right? So for many of us, those things could be dying off and surrendering, and just dissolving and disintegrating right in front of our eyes. And we need to be able to trust and let go that, that has served a purpose. It had its time and place. But at the same time, what we experience in the womb of Pisces is, regeneration and reincarnation itself, right? So whatever is dissolving and decaying in one area of your life, especially where that Saturn is transiting there, there is also a rebuilding and a restructuring. Okay. But it's almost like the zygote, right? Like the little zygote that you are before you're actually born, not even physically born, before you're actually like a seed and begin to build yourself in like the embryo sac, right, within your mother's womb, if you will. It's almost like it's that period of a new cycle emerging for you, right? So that um need for control that I talked about, right? The insecurity versus the unsecurity, that's really in relation to what this new moon is going to be implementing. Okay. So again, the new moon is very silent. So those needs for improvement and where you're planting an intention to go forward to make those fine adjustments, it's very silent, but it is forming that opposition. So tune in and listen in to your body and your frequency and go within to find a little bit more clarity on where am I holding on like it's not necessary anymore. Where am I holding on to control in my life, and where is this not necessary anymore, and where can I relinquish some of that, right? Where can I release some of that control? Now Saturn in Pisces, right, does speak to Neptune in Pisces. Okay. And Neptune in Pisces is sextile Pluto retrograde. And I do want to point out that all of these outer planets right now, except Jupiter, are retrograde. Okay. We've got Uranus gestation retrograde, Saturn is retrograde, Neptune's retrograde. Obviously, this is in order. Pluto's retrograde. Okay. And Pluto is now in this new moon in Capricorn as well. And this is the last time ever in our life we're going to have Pluto and Capricorn. So there is a ton of dissolving going on to things that we have had placed authority in our life. And that just doesn't mean bosses, leaders. I mean, what has physically, emotionally, mentally taken some type of authority or jurisdiction over your life? And where are you feeling or thinking more independently for yourself and releasing that type of control in your life? Because that's exactly what's going on, right? And again, authority, things that have represented some kind of authority also can represent some type of security, right? Because if it's a belief and it's had a superior authority over your life, right? That felt secure because it was a belief system that you lived your life by, which gave you some sense of control, right? Some kind of alignment to navigate through, right? And now that gets shattered for some reason, right? You can't explain it, right? I could probably explain it with your astrology chart, but like you can't explain like why this reality that I live by, this belief system that I always thought works, that always could rely on, and it just doesn't feel like it resonates anymore. And who am I? And I'm having an ego death. And what the fuck? My whole life is falling apart, right? You can't explain it. That's these transits right now, because they're all retrograde too, and they're asking us to become more authentic with what is in alignment for you. And it's different for you versus the whole entire world. We're moving into a very individuated, very Aquarian age. That means being more authentic. That means having your own voice. That means knowing what you do and you do not like. That means knowing what you're good at and maybe what you're not, and you don't need to be good at because it's not a part of your design and you don't have to do it here anyway. Like, you don't have to be a person who wakes up at 5 a.m. every day because a bunch of other people, they do that and they say it brings them success, and you're trying to be, successful and you feel like that's what you need to do. We need to go away. Those things are all leaving. Okay. certain things of authority that does not come from our self, individually ourself, those things are dying off. And if you're meeting resistance in your life, it means that you're giving your authority away in certain areas of your life instead of claiming it within yourself. And I promise you, and I guarantee you, the more authentic you become, the more unbothered you become by everything else going on around you. Other people's decisions don't bother you. Other people's choices don't bother you. It doesn't mess with you in your lane. You get to go faster in your lane. You're already like on the Autobahn, okay? And there's no speed limit for you, right? Like we should all be driving on our own Autobahn, essentially, right? In like this alternate space. That's basically what this is going to help you do, right? Getting clear about like your insecurities right now, if they're showing up for you, or at least, and it's not a bad thing if you have them. It's just a tap in, a tune in, a reality check of self-improvement here, because insecurity will keep you in that fear and that doubt, but unsecurity will be okay, especially if you can admit it. But at least you're going to be there to surrender and release the control and outcome, and you're going to be able to fall and live in your highest potential and more of your divine path, given that release that you're being able to do. And Neptune is like, hey, and a sextile with Pluto, like we're on the same alignment here. Like Neptune is dealing with our divine consciousness, right, on an ethereal level, and how we're connecting to our higher self, right, and our devotion to our higher needs and our higher self. And Neptune is talking to Pluto over here in your chart, saying, there is a transformation happening, and that's necessary, and that's okay, and I've got your back. There is a transmutation happening within your soul. Like your genetic makeup is going under a mutation right now, and that's okay, right? I'm here for you. Like surrender to me, because you are actually just getting reborn. You're getting rejuvenated, right, with this Pluto retrograde, and it's finishing up in Capricorn, and then it goes into Aquarius around November 19th, I believe, and that's it. We got Pluto in Aquarius for the next 20 years, right? So this is a pretty big deal right now, for us to be experiencing. And at the same time, Pluto is also in a nice trine to that Uranus retro that just went retrograde in Taurus, right? And when a planet goes retrograde, it's really about chipping away at um putting our energy output so much and going more within, so that we can accelerate our individuation process. Okay, so we can accelerate that. And when I was thinking about this new moon, I had to write it down, because I had to realize that as Uranus is ending its transit in Taurus, among the many things I've talked about over, the last couple of years with Uranus and Taurus, and it is about releasing, our attachment to certain resources that aren't in alignment with our values and our needs, but understanding on a deeper level that the ability to trust in yourself is the ultimate resource. And I really think this is the massive message with Uranus and Taurus retrograde, right? Taurus, your self-sufficiency, your self-needs, right? Your ability to persevere on your own, to accumulate your own resources, right? To tap in and tune into your personal values, right? And then Uranus is in there, and it's about being an individual and liberating the self and individualizing the self when it comes to personal resources and needs, and holding back in retrograde now. It's like, do you really trust in that? Can you trust in yourself, in your individuality, as being that ultimate resource? Because that will ultimately free you up from the whole other paradigm, right? And that Uranus is in a trine to Pluto retrograde in Capricorn. So it's like, release that control. And trines are always supportive energy as well, right? They are like cheerleader energy. It's like Jupiter energy, right? Like, you can do this. That's why they're easier aspects, because we've been through the squares, we've been through the hard stuff, and then the trine is like, you've got this, I've got your back. Like, I did cheerleading for, like, I don't know, high school, and I was a base, and we'd throw up the flyer, and the flyer would like have to allow us to throw her up in the air, and then she had to trust that we were going to catch her, right? She had to trust in herself that she could make a good judgment, that her teammates weren't gonna like fail her, weren't gonna let her go, right? It wasn't really about us and a trust in us. It was a trust in herself to allow herself and her body to do that. Because if she got thrown up in the air and she was resistant, she's gonna land wrong. She's not gonna land as smoothly, as flexible as she should have, right? There would be tension and stuff, and then the whole thing would get jacked up. So there's a need for that self-trust here to like be really, really strong, and also an ability to trust the fact that you can be unsecure in situations, still make choices for yourself that are based in self-love, right? And self-empowerment, and still not know the outcome, and still know that everything's going to be okay. Still surrender to not having a control of the outcome, and still succeeding and still achieving and still getting to exactly where you want to be. And like, you'll start to drive on that Autobahn, right? You really will. You'll start to drive on that Autobahn. The other thing I wanted to point out, because like, there's a bit going on around the chart, okay? But so lately I've just been liking to connect things together, but like kind of picking part pieces, and because I do get the flow and stuff, but as I talk, the other things come into play, right? So that North Node in Aries here, which is obviously a big part of this whole thing, and it is forming an in conjunction to that new moon. So there is a necessary adjustment where the Aries to Virgo in conjunction is a crisis, right? It's a crisis, an internal crisis, and a need for adjustment, right? So that could be showing up where you're like, oh my God, okay, I gotta like realign. It could be a small realignment, it could be a massive, it totally depends on where you're at, you know what I mean? But the North Node ruler here is in Gemini under this new moon. So it very much could signify that you've got choices, that you are operating between two, that there isn't a clear decision yet, that it requires more conversation, it requires more communication, and it requires a desire to have more curiosity on your choices and your outcome. And the more open and curious you can be, the more flexibility and the more maneuvering you'll have on your path, rather than being so dogmatic and like, this is it, and these are my only two choices, and this is it. Think even greater than that. Jupiter's still in Gemini, giving us bigger choices than we thought. Take your lens out a bit, right? Start to communicate, start to take action in other areas of your life and with other choices. And I really, really encourage people to think curiously, right? Think like a Gemini mind, like know that there are other possibilities, right? Be inquisitive, ask questions to yourself, ask questions to other people, open up conversations. Don't play shy here, right? That's where that Mars is bringing you right now until it goes into the Cancer, and that'll be a whole other different field. But this is under this new moon specifically, right? So this is under tapping into this energy right now. And at the same time, we've got Venus about to conjoin the South Node. There is a conjunction right here, and this is a balsamic phase conjunction. This is Venus balsamic to the South Node. When it crosses that South Node, it will now be in a new phase, and it will also cross over Juno partnerships. So new partnerships are coming in, or new ways of partnering are coming in. You can still keep the same partners, but maybe new values are being implemented here now. Maybe new techniques, maybe new skills are being implemented right now. Okay. But in some dynamic under this new moon, you also know that there is an inner feeling, because Venus can represent our feelings, that, some of the ways and some of the patterns of conditioning that we have taken from other people that aren't ours, we can listen to them, they can have them, but if we've adopted them as our own, if we've become codependent and reliant on somebody else's way of relating, and it's not authentic to ourselves, well, that balsamic phase is going to allow us to release that when it crosses into that South Node, which it is conjunct that South Node on this new moon. And I do want to highlight that Venus is conjunct Lilith here. And if we think back to the Lilith story, Lilith was born born of the same soil as Adam, okay? And she was born into the Garden of Eden, where conditioning was that women surrendered to the men, right? So she was born, her Venus story was, I was born into a garden. It's the part about being outside, but I love it. Where men, the men was dominant to the women, and Lilith was like, hell no, right? This is not for me. I'm gonna leave, right? I'm getting out of here. This is not my story. This is not my conditioning. This is not my truth. This is not how I operate in relationships. This is not my individuality. Okay. So I'm out of here. So in some way, there's a Lilith story behind our Venus, behind our way of relating to ourselves and our way of relating to other people and how we show up in relationships, right? In partnerships. There's a Lilith story underneath that is asking us to liberate ourselves from a codependent, codynamic conditioning pattern that has come from prior life or early life conditioning with that South Node, and release that on the backdrop. Okay. And again, I'm sure Lilith was pretty unsecure with her outcome of her leaving Garden of Eden and where the hell she was going to end up. But she ended up being on the outskirts of the Mediterranean, having an abundance of children and lovers and all of these cool creatures, and being free and happy. Okay. And coming into her own power. Okay. So that's what's going on. I'm gonna stop the share. That is what's going on, everybody, with this new moon. It's like, it's so awesome to me because it's so quiet. It feels so quiet, but yet again, this new moon changes the whole course of everything. So it's so powerful at the same time. And I'm laughing because like Virgos aren't sneaky, but it's like when Virgo is operating in its yin, phase or whatever, and those adjustments are happening, it's like it can sneak up on you later on. You're like, wow, I didn't know that, like that real little thing that I changed, or that little piece of refinement that I did on myself, or wherever I put that refinement, how massive of a shift that makes in the internal outcome, right, of everything going on. So anyway, I hope this video helped everybody today. Thank you for being here. Of course, please hit the like button and subscribe if you have not. This helps my channel grow. Please leave me a comment. I love to read your comments and I like to give back and respond. And also, if you share this on your, platforms, if you share this on your social media and stuff, if you vibe with this content, please help me help my channel grow. I would love that for you. And again, I'm also available for astrology readings and human design readings. And I have a couple of different offerings that are available at different price tiers, and they are available on my website. So make sure you check out scenicrootastrology.com, and my TikTok, Scenic Root Astrology, and my Instagram, Scenic Root Astrology, all of that stuff. So, and that will be down in the show notes below. Take care, everybody. Happy new moon in Virgo, and I'll talk to you soon.